If you want to know which Copic colors someone uses most, ask them which refill bottles they've emptied. Me, I go through more YG03 refill ink than any other color. There's a reason this marker is at the top of my top 10 list. Today, let's explore one of Copic's best-selling YG markers and why you need this marker in your collection. I bought my first art markers in 1989, and over the years, the one thing that I've learned is that not all markers behave the same. Some inks are stubborn, some separate into funny colors, and some don't layer as well as others. And I don't mean different marker brands, I'm talking about just Copic markers here. Every marker color has unique behavior patterns. Because I'm geeky about this stuff, I started testing my markers to see why they do what they do. And here's what I've learned about YG03. Copic YG03 is a warm chartreuse color which sits here on the color wheel. It's a yellow-green that leans very close to yellow itself. Now there's a slight glow to YG03. It's not fluorescent or neon, but it is a very lively, bright color. It's definitely not a wallflower. The color of YG03 fits in between Prismacolor Lime Peel and Spring Green. Copic named this color yellow-green, and while that's not the most specific of names given that YG means yellow-green, I guess the name could be a lot worse. YG03 is an essential color for florals and botanical projects, as well as landscapes. It's a youthful, happy color. It's also great for celebration projects and spring themes. YG03 is available in sketch, chow, and classic style markers. Now let's go deeper. Yellow-green is part of the YG0 group of markers. There's something odd about this group. Normally, all of these markers would use the same base ink. Each of these colors is made at the factory by adding more and more colorless blender. Yes, YG03 should be the same chemical formula as YG09, but with a higher percentage of solvent to lighten the color. But that's not what I see here as I color. Copic is playing games with us here, because from YG05 on up, these yellow-greens lean a little bit more towards blue, while from 03 on down, these colors show more yellow characteristics. It's not a big deal. I just like to note irregularities as I find them. YG03 ends with a number 3. 3 should be the value measurement of this color based upon the Copic N grayscale. Copic doesn't always number their colors accurately, but YG03 matches the value of N3 quite closely, so the cap number in this case is absolutely correct. The color indicator on my Copic sketch marker here, it looks pretty accurate. It's the color of about 2 coats of YG03 ink. That's close enough in my book. Now let's talk about layering. Here's 1 layer of YG03, and 2, now 3, and here's 4 layers. I test layering for a few reasons. First, Copic color is buildable. I want to know the darkest version of YG03 that I can create. Here are 4 layers of YG03 compared to 1 layer of YG05. Next, I want to know how quickly the color builds to its maximum value. See here how at 3 layers, YG03 doesn't look streaky anymore? That's useful knowledge for coloring backgrounds. It's going to take at least 3 layers of YG03 to color a smooth background. It's also handy to know that 4 layers of ink doesn't look much darker than 3, so save your ink and skip a 4th layer. The last reason I test layering is because some colors can start to look oily as the paper reaches its saturation point. Some markers, they look oily on the second coat, but at 4 layers, YG03 doesn't look oily at all. This is great news for beginners who tend to blend and blend and blend and blend again, trying to make everything look perfectly smooth. YG03 can take a lot of abuse before it ruins your project with oily streaks. I also test something called shattering. You know from kindergarten that we can make green by combining blue with yellow, and some Copic greens are indeed blended mixtures. When an ink is a mixture, if you accidentally use it in a blending combination with another color that's really high in solvent, the darker ink can break apart into its original color ingredients. So you may see weird blue or yellow streaks inside a green blended area. YG03 is safe. It did not shatter in my testing, which means that this is either a very stable blend or it's made from a naturally green ink. Once again, this stability means that YG03 can be used and abused by beginners, and it won't leak funky colors around the edges of your blend. Now let's look at another important characteristic. Is YG03 a staining color? Staining colors are inks that bond themselves to the paper fibers, and they don't want to let go. Staining colors are hard markers to blend. It's not you, and it's not your blending technique. Staining inks are just always going to take extra work to make them smooth. YG03 is basically the opposite of a staining color. It's not stubborn at all. YG03 lifts right up off the paper fibers, making it extremely easy to blend. And the fact that it doesn't stain means that this marker is also pretty easy to make corrections if you accidentally color outside the lines. So how lightfast is YG03? Uh-oh, some of you are hearing this for the very first time. Alcohol markers are not lightfast, and they are not archival. Copic is more lightfast than the other brands, which is one of the reasons why they're more expensive. But all alcohol inks fade, and every color fades at a different rate. I lightfast tested YG03 by hanging it in direct summer sunlight for a 3-week period. Now, I would never recommend that you hang your marker art in a similar situation. This isn't official lab testing. It's just me seeing how fast they fade and which colors fade the worst. Great news! YG03 did not fade during my test period. YG03 withstood the sunlight amazingly well. Now, this doesn't mean it's lightfast, and it doesn't mean it wouldn't fade if I extended the test period. But for me, YG03 passes the test. So would I recommend YG03 to beginners? Absolutely. I recommend this color to everyone. And this is the first green marker that I introduce to my beginner students. I teach with this color all the time. It has a great success rate, and students love the color. Frankly, YG03 is pretty darn perfect. Now let's talk about duplicates. Copic makes 2 other colors, and they're pretty close to YG03. Here's YG13, and this is YG23. These 3 colors are very, very close. 03, it looks a little more yellow to me. 13 there, it looks a smidge darker and maybe a little bit more blue. I would say 23 sits right between the 2. Now let's be clear. These colors are all similar, but chemically they're totally different. 03 will always blend better with members of the 0 group. 13 blends best with the YG teens, and YG23 works best with markers from the 20 group. I know you only care about the color, but there's more to color than the color that we see. Chemistry is really important to how these markers blend. But still, I don't think you need all 3 of these markers, at least not in the beginning. So which one would I recommend? Well, I've also tested 1-3 and 2-3. Remember that layering test that I did earlier? 2-3 did not do so well. It started looking oily on like the second layer. And the shattering test? YG13 leaks yellow if you're not careful. YG13 and 2-3 are also more staining. than YG03, which means they're harder to blend anyway. I would stick with YG03. Overall, it's the best behaved, best value of these 3 markers. Let's look at YG03 in action. Now, the easiest blend is always a self-blend. Some people don't even realize you can do this. So here's 1 layer of YG03, and then here's 2, and now here's 3 to make a subtle gradient. Now let's use YG03 as the darkest color in a light natural blend. A natural blend is 3 colors from the same number group. Here's YG03 blended with 01 and then 00 as the lightest color. Now let's do the opposite. Here's YG07, 05, and 03. How about some underpainting? Here in my Maybells project, my blend is BV23, YG67, YG17, and YG03. The BV underneath the green, it adds that extra shadiness that we see where the leaves curl and dip down into that pewter pitcher. Here's what that blend looks like on Express It blending card. And because the same blends can look different on different papers, here's that same blend on Strathmore Bristol. Now in Maybells, the underpaint was meant to work underneath YG67. BV23 is too dark for the YG03 by itself. So what colors do we use to underpaint YG03? Well, let's try B21, BV20, and here's V12. How about using pencils to darken or lighten YG03? Try using Prismacolor Prussian Green over the top of 03 to make it darker. Use a very light pressure. We're just trying to darken the marker. We're not trying to make this area look Prussian green. If you want to desaturate YG03, try Indigo Blue. Again, use a very light pressure. Or for complementary desaturation, I really like Parma Violet. If you want to lighten YG03 with pencil, try Prismacolor White or Cream. They don't show up well on camera, but in real life, these look great. If you're a beginner, I strongly recommend adding YG03 to your collection today. And if you're an experienced marker pro, if you're not already using the heck out of YG03, go find this marker and start using it. YG03 could be your new best friend. This video is based on a series of articles that I've written at markernovice.com. I've got test results for a ton of Copic markers there. The Maybells digital stamp is available at sketchgarden.com. And here's another video I think you'll like.